Then I discovered straight edge, which is a kind of punk rock community, which is no drinking, no drugs, and sometimes other rules like no sex or whatever. That's not my jam, but just to make
Thank you
that
for
clear,
clarifying.
that
Thank you
like,
for clarifying.
just to be clear. So like when I was a teenager, I was like this like alcohol-free, drug-free punk rocker, but I didn't feel like, alone in that because there was this whole scene, like this whole subgenre of music and this, you could read about other sort of punk rock musicians who were straight edge. And, there's a little a thing where people would put like an X on your hand, which is what clubs do when you're underage to say like don't
Hmm.
serve this person any alcohol. So straight edge
Right.
people would either put it on their hands with a marker or sometimes get it tattooed, almost like a
Tattooed
pride
on.
of like,
Oh, wow.
like claiming that, like, yeah, don't serve me any alcohol by choice.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Sober Curator podcast, where we dive into the world of sober living and pop culture with people who are redefining what it means to live alcohol-free. I'm your host, Alysse Bryson, and today we are talking all about sober travel, which I love. Yes, it's possible. And yes, it's just as fun. And I actually will go on the record saying you will remember a lot more and your pictures will not be such a surprise if you're sober, because before getting sober, I would go and develop my film. Yes, that's how old I am. And I would be very surprised at the pictures that I saw. My guest today is proof of this, and I would add zero proof of this. She's been all over the world, completely alcohol free, and she is on a mission to show others how to do the same. So I would love to welcome Liisa Ladouceur to the show. She is a travel writer and arts journalist from Toronto, Canada. She is passionate about normalizing socializing without alcohol. She has visited more than 25 countries completely sober and shares her experiences of seeing the world without the baggage of hangovers. She's the author of Sober Toronto, a guidebook to the best non-alcoholic drinks in the city, and she blogs about her adventures on lisawanders.com. Liisa, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me and making me sound really interesting.
You are so interesting. Well, 25 countries, like that's a lot of countries. Can you name them all?
I could, but then it just kind of sounds like this weird shopping list thing. But yes, I could name it.
Okay, how about this? Instead of the whole list, because you're right, that would sound like a shopping list. What are 5 that are unexpected? Like not the typical ones.
Well, I've been to Iceland a few times, which is popular these days, but it's a little bit, not somewhere that everybody has been. I went to India a few years ago, which was unexpected for me. It was like kind of on assignment, and there was so much amazing surprise in India. I've also been to Romania, which maybe is not a surprise if you know that I'm a goth person obsessed with vampires. But I've also been to, what I would call the popular places: Italy, France, Mexico, these kinds of things, USA.
Okay. And I'll have to ask, because of the vampires and because I live in the Pacific Northwest, are you pro Twilight or no Twilight?
I'm kind of neutral on Twilight.
Okay,
I'm happy for the people who love it. It wasn't my thing, but I'm not offended.
Okay. All right. I got it. Yeah. Well, you, Liisa, have been sober since birth. So like you are definitely unique in that way. Your story is a little bit different. So tell us how you found your community early on and what that's all looked like.
Yeah. So, as I've become, as an adult, more aware of the sober community, especially, post COVID, as more and more people are embracing an alcohol free lifestyle, I realize that my perspective is very different because I'm not someone who has come to sobriety after a period of drinking or having alcohol in my life. I've never been interested in alcohol. So, when I was a teenager, I don't know, I was a bookish loner maybe and not super interested in it. But then I discovered straight edge, which is a kind of punk rock community, which is no drinking, no drugs, and sometimes other rules like no sex or whatever. That's not my jam, but just to make
Thank you
that
for
clear,
clarifying. Thank you for clarifying.
just to be clear. So like when I was a teenager, I was like this like alcohol-free, drug-free punk rocker, but I didn't feel like, alone in that because there was this whole scene, like this whole subgenre of music and this, you could read about other sort of punk rock musicians who were straight edge. And, there's a little a thing where people would put like an X on your hand, which is what clubs do when you're underage to say like, don't
Mhm.
serve this person any alcohol. So straight edge
Right.
people would either put it on their hands with a marker or sometimes get it tattooed, almost like a
Tattooed
pride
on.
of like,
Oh, wow.
like claiming that, like, yeah, don't serve me any alcohol by choice.
Okay. And I
Yeah.
have to ask, because I'm a girl who loves fashion, does straight edge punk is the clothing, the apparel similar to the punk that I would be familiar with? Is punk punk?
Sure, it's just like it's like a subsection of it or certain
Okay.
percentage of people in the sort of punk world, ordinary looking punks just
Punk punk.
have chosen that as like as just a lifestyle, really. So sometimes I tell people like who are in the music world, I'll tell them that I'm straight edge because it's like a shorthand. They go, "Oh, okay, I know what that means." And then
Got
for
it.
other people, if I say that I'm sober, then I have to explain that I've always been sober, and it's, it takes a little bit of explaining, but ultimately, the thing that is connecting me to the sober community is that I'm living my life without alcohol.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is, it's not easy to do, I think, even if you've never consumed it, because you're dealing with your feelings all the time.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what it's like to grow up in a culture where drinking isn't the norm. I
Mhm.
was always like very into music, going to see live bands, going to nightclubs, going dancing. Like in my 20s, I was out at clubs like 3 or 4 nights a week as drinking diet soda from the gun, the really shitty diet soda
Mhm.
from the bar.
Mhm.
So, in my 20s, like I was trying to live the same life as everyone else, just without drinking. And I mean, it's not the norm culturally, right?
Yeah.
It's not
Yeah.
what's expected. And so it's weird.
Yeah. I have been sober almost 19 years. So, which is now longer than I drank, but that because I drank from the age of 16 to 30.
Okay.
And so, but now, like, it doesn't bother me at all. But there is still, even in 2025, a lot of explaining. So I can imagine for you in the early 2000s, the late 90s, there was so much explaining.
So much explaining. There was a non-alcoholic alcohol. Was it Captain Morgan did a non-alcoholic Captain Morgan about
They
3
did.
years ago, and they
Yeah, they
had an
did.
ad campaign that was like, "Why you always why?" And like, "Why are you always asking me why?" And I loved that ad because, yeah, my whole life people have been asking me, why?" And it's like, okay, well, I could list like 10 reasons why a person might not be drinking, and then none of them are your business. So I have had that my whole life, but it means I've found ways to deal with it. I was lucky. I grew up in a household where my mom said it doesn't matter if other people don't like you, just, find your
Mhm.
people. So that helped me a lot when I felt like I was not the norm, for sure. Yeah, no, I can just talking to you right now, I could think of so many really awkward conversations trying to explain to people,
So
especially
many.
when traveling, when you're traveling, you're in a different place, you're trying, not to make a scene. Maybe the language isn't the same. You're trying to explain why you don't want to accept this drink from a stranger. Like, I've had 30 years of kind of like navigating that. And I'm so happy that it's easier than ever.
Mhm. Well, and what's coming up for me is if you tell someone, "Hey, I'm allergic to peanuts or shellfish or onions," like nobody was like, "Why? Why? Can you just
Yeah.
have a little? It's a special night. Can you just have a little?" Like, no, I can't. I left my EpiPen at home. Like, back off, like,
It's funny you mentioned allergies because, one of my stories, my travel sober stories is I went to Ireland,
okay.
In my 30s with my best friend, and she doesn't like beer, and I don't drink alcohol at all. And we ended up
Did they even let you in the country? Did they even
well,
let you in?
they did because they didn't know, but we ended up in this traditional Irish pub, like a thatched. Do you know what that is? A thatched roof pub.
Oh,
Like it's
sure, sure.
in the middle of nowhere. There's no electricity. The seats are like the empty beer keg. All of this. And we get there because we've accepted an invitation from someone we met on a bus to go there. And we get there and we don't want beer. And they're so confused. The person actually looked at me and said, why are you here? I said, you mean in the bar just to hang out? He goes, no, in the country. Like, why are you in Ireland? Like as if there's no other reason to go to Ireland. And then at the end of that trip, we were in like a funky bar in Dublin, and my girlfriend had to tell this guy that I was allergic to alcohol to get him to stop annoying me for not wanting to have a drink. So I've used the allergy thing, and they go, oh, okay. Like they can respect that for some reason. I don't know. It's weird.
Yeah. Yeah. It's crazy. It's crazy to me. Well, you are out there showing the world that sober travel is possible. And let's talk a little bit about your book, Sober Toronto, and your blog, Liisa Wanders. What inspired you to create these resources? And what are some of your favorite discoveries along the way?
Thank you for asking. So, Sober Toronto is an ebook that has over 100 bars and restaurants in Toronto that have excellent non-alcoholic drinks on their menus. Back before the pandemic lockdowns, I was running a non-alcoholic happy hour get together here in Toronto because I was meeting more and more people who didn't want to drink anymore. And so they were just staying home. And I said, no, you don't have to stay home. Come out. I'll show you places where you can go that have interesting things for you to drink. You don't have to stay home if you don't want to. And I got a great response from that. And I loved being able to show people things. And that's why I wanted to do it with the book. Not everyone can come out to an event with me, but anyone can get a copy of it for themselves. So, Sober Toronto is an ebook, and it's like a travel guide. It lists more than 100 bars and restaurants in the city that have excellent non-alcoholic drinks on their menus. So, custom mocktails, non-alcoholic beers. Some of them are breweries with non-alcoholic beers on tap. Other interesting things by neighborhood and by budget. And I wanted to do this because there are events in the city that you can go to. I used to run a non-alcoholic happy hour, but not everyone can attend a specific event. So I wanted to make a resource for people that are living here or visiting here to find a place that would be exciting because the menu's great, but also where they are welcome. I say all the time that any good bartender can make you a non-alcoholic drink. But I'm not satisfied with that anymore. I want to walk into a place like any other customer, look at a menu, and choose something like any other customer. I don't want to have to make an exception. So I'm profiling specifically businesses that care about sober clientele enough to put drinks on the menu. And so far, the response has been great. People find it really useful. I'm going to update it, as things open and close. And it's just one piece of this bigger project to normalize socializing, going out, and experiencing the best that you can in the city, whether or not you're drinking.
I love that. I love that. I mean, you've been on the site, the Sober Curator, and like we're just all about showing people, not telling them, because telling them they don't believe us. So we just have to show them that like a sober lifestyle can be so fun and so rewarding. And there's just so many pluses that come along with it. I have to ask, out of all of those listings in the resource, like 100 places is a lot of places. Does Toronto have a sober bar?
We do and we don't. We have something, we have a sober bottle shop that
Sure.
also
Okay.
operates events.
Got it.
As I've traveled, I'm always looking for the sober bars. And what I've
Mhm.
found, and you can correct me because you probably have more information in the USA than I do, a lot of them opened in 2022 and
Mhm. And they're already
closed,
closed. Yeah, they're already
right?
closed.
It's I don't know yet that it is a sustainable business model to just have a non-alcoholic drinking establishment. But we
Mhm.
have 3 different non-alcoholic bottle shops in the city in 3 different parts of the city, and they
Mhm.
all do different types of events. So Zero Bar has like live music and other they have drag shows and Bevies has, Sunday morning DJs like spaces where you can go and hang out, but ultimately their business model is to sell people
Sure.
drinks to take home. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, and I actually think that's fine because I mean, yes, is there something attractive about going to a bar where I know nobody's going to be drunk? Sure. But like I also am tired of the them and us, right? The whole point
Mm.
is connection and like we should all be able to celebrate together regardless of what's in our glass. Like full stop.
100%. I've said this is exactly what I've said for years. What difference does it make? We're both here. Why does it matter to you what I have in my glass versus yours? Now, as a non-drinker, that's just such a mysterious thing to me as someone who, has been a drinker of alcohol. Maybe that's not so crazy to you. Maybe there is a difference when you're drinking. You want to be with other people who are drinking. But for me, I don't care. As long as you're not wasted, if you're enjoying wine or whatever, doesn't mean we can't hang out.
Yeah,
Uh,
of course not. It's not going to
yeah.
like accidentally jump down my throat, you know? Lisa, I was once at a dinner. It was a celebratory dinner with a team of managers for a company I used to work for. There was, I don't know, 8, 10 of us there. And it was, we were a lot of celebration. So I knew there would be a lot of cheersing. I knew what I was in for. I was the only one at the table that was a non drinker, but like, I don't care if other people drink. I really don't. Let's just not make it weird, right? And so we went in, and the restaurant we were at, they had a full menu of alcohol-free cocktails with lots of different brands that I recognized. I was very excited. It immediately felt included, which is all I'm looking for. And we went into Cheers, and the first time we did a group cheers, the guy to my right, like it was like the glasses missed. And I was like, wow, I'm really clumsy for a sober girl. Ooh, you know? And then a couple minutes goes by. Now we're cheersing again because we had so much to celebrate. And so this time I was like, I'm definitely going to cheers with him. And I go to cheers with him and he moves his
Mm.
glass. And I was like, what's the problem? And he was like, oh, you don't have alcohol in your glass. That's 9 years of bad luck for me. And I was like, I just became the black cat at the table. Like, how did that happen? You know? And like, I mean, I guess if it was his religious belief, I need to respect that. Sure. I don't think that was the case. But it's like, if you could even get past the allergies and all of that, it's still like people just, it means something. And usually to me, it's the people that have a real problem with it. It's because they're heavy drinkers and they assume they're going to be judged, which they're not. Like, we're not thinking about you. Trust me, we're thinking about ourselves. But that's, I think, what happens. And I'm sure that's how I behaved before I got sober. So I would love to know. We've talked a lot now about not drinking, but like, talk to me about some of your favorite trips.
Mm.
And like, do you have a go to spot that you're like, I will always go here given any opportunity?
I say that you can have a romantic relationship with a place. I travel solo often, sometimes with friends. I've traveled with boyfriends in the past or with group trips, but I'm often by myself. And there's a romantic pull to certain destinations. So for me, that's Paris,
Mm,
Mexico, Iceland, and Morocco. And
okay. That's a
all
good
of those
mix.
places are very different in terms of, like, how
Very
popular
different.
what kind of drinking culture they have, for sure.
Ooh.
Iceland is like there's a lot of drunk Vikings in Iceland. But then when you go to a place like Morocco, which is, a Muslim majority country where drinking is not the norm and is not widely available, like, in Morocco, because it's a Muslim country, and alcohol is not widely sold. If you want to buy it as a foreigner, like, I can recall we were in a big supermarket, and the alcohol was actually downstairs. Like, you had to take an escalator, like, to go
Oh,
to a
wow.
you like, you couldn't even see it from the rest of the store.
Wow.
Or, like, there's a lot of places, not even just small towns, but, like, fairly large cities where when you roll in, there might only be one place to buy alcohol or 1 or 2 hotels that might serve it in the bar, and everywhere else, it's just not around, which
Hmm.
for me, I love
Yeah, it's
because I
great.
really have to think about, like, "Oh, is everyone on the trip gonna get drunk tonight?" It's like, "Nope, they're not." So, I tell people if they're interested in just getting away from alcohol completely to consider one of those countries. Morocco is one of my
Hmm.
favorite
Hmm.
places. It's just such a beautiful place. I love the nature and the vibes and the music and all of that. And you go out at night and you can go to a shisha lounge if you want to smoke shisha, or you can just go and hang out and have like a fancy juice. And it's very normal. Paris, which is, of course, a city for wine, has a great, like, speakeasy cocktail bar culture, and so they're very much at the forefront of mocktails. All over Paris, you can get amazing mocktails, so I don't let not drinking stop me from going anywhere.
That's great. That is so great. You travel a lot, so you must have a couple of travel tips as far as like things you don't leave the house without. Like these are things you have to have in your carry-on bag or your suitcase.
Oh, for me, it's sunscreen for sure. Like, I
Mhm.
care
Yeah.
a lot about sun protection, so I always have a good SPF no matter where I'm going or what time of year it is. I always carry a notebook. I'm still a pen and paper person, and I like to take notes. And I like to say that I always pack my curiosity because I'm going there to see things that I haven't seen and meet people who are different from me, and I just wanna go and with an open mind and see what it's like.
Mhm. Do you take a lot of pictures and video, or are you more of just like the be present in the moment person?
There are different types of trips. Since I started doing a travel blog called Lisa Wanders, which I launched in the pandemic, which is an awesome time to
That's
start a travel blog.
hilarious. That's
But,
hilarious.
so I started taking a lot more photos and videos because
Yeah,
I wanna have,
sure. You need the
I
content.
wanna have,
Yeah.
photos to put on my travel blog, but, like, I just went to Mexico. It's funny, I went to Mexico in January with a friend, my birthday, just for the weekend. I was like, "This is not a working trip. This is not a blogging trip. I'm not gonna worry about taking pictures." In the end, I ended up selling an article about it to a newspaper, and thankfully, my friend took some photos so we could use hers. But I think that the main thing for me is that, like, getting the photo is not a reason to go somewhere, which I know makes me different from a lot of people, especially younger people who are traveling. They see a beautiful photo and they wanna go and they wanna replicate that image. They wanna get on the swing in Bali or whatever. It's never a reason for me to go somewhere, so I don't feel that I, like, have to have a picture. I'm also someone that doesn't care if there's people in the background of my photos. It's like, I'm not gonna pretend I'm the only one here at the Taj Mahal. Like, that's just not reality. Although now people are just taking our backgrounds out with AI. So, to each their own.
Yeah. Yeah.
But for me, I'm much more interested in just, like, looking around and seeing what there is to see. Yeah.
I love that. Well, as we start to wind down, I do this little segment at the end called Sober Shots. Don't worry, no one's getting drunk. I'm just going to fire off some really rapid fire questions and you could just give me your first knee jerk reaction. How does that sound?
I'm scared, but yes.
No, wait, I'll be easy. I'll be easy. I promise. Okay. Sober drink of choice. Are you more of a tea connoisseur or a zero proof cocktail enthusiast?
Tea during the day and mocktails at night.
Perfect. Ultimate sober hangout. Are we exploring a new city or cozying up with a stack of travel guides and a cup of tea?
Oh, going to a great bar with cool music and a great view, and sitting at the bar with the bartender and having them make us a great non-alcoholic drink.
Perfect. This one I feel like you maybe already answered, but let's see if you have a different answer for it. Favorite travel destination for sober fun? If you had to pick one city that's the very best for sober travelers, which would it be?
Oof. That's like really, it's hard. That's a very hard question to answer because I believe as a traveler that there are no bad destinations, right? I
Mhm.
went to
Mhm. Yeah.
Nashville. Like that place has big drink energy,
Big drink energy.
but I went on a sober group tour
Yeah.
with 5 women and none of us were drinking. So any place can be a great place for a sober trip if you're with people who respect you and are there to have a good time. Yeah.
Mhm. I also took a sober girls trip to Nashville. We were like sober girls getting nasty. And I have to say, the food and the music and the shopping, I loved. I was here
The
for those.
music.
They have so many like little neighborhoods that have all these interesting shops and the music and the museums. Like there was just, I had so much fun. I had so much fun.
We went, our sober group tour to Nashville. We did the monster truck ride around the city. We did the Grand Ole Opry, the museum tours, and even we went to like an old school honky tonk rockabilly bar on the main drag, and they had
Yeah.
non-alcoholic beer on the menu.
Yeah.
So things are
Yeah.
changing.
Yeah, things are definitely changing. Okay, this one I won't know an answer. I probably won't know what you say, but a straight edge punk anthem. If you had to pick a song that defines your sober lifestyle, what would your theme song be?
Okay, so the straight edge anthem is by Minor Threat, the punk rock straight edge band. But for me personally, it's I Love Myself Today by Biff Naked, who is a Canadian punk rock singer and my friend, but she is straight edge also. And we have the best time without drinking. And to me, that song, I Love Myself Today, not like yesterday. I'm cool, I'm calm, I'm gonna be okay, is a great sober
Ah,
anthem.
I love that answer. I'm now going to have to go listen to that song. All right, last question. Dream collaboration. If you could co write a travel guide with anyone, and they could be alive, they could be dead, they could be a celebrity, a musician, a travel guru, anybody, who would you collab with?
Oh my gosh. That that's gonna keep me up at night because I don't have an
Oh.
answer. Would I love to tour Iceland with Bjork or, like, Stanley Tucci in
Ooh.
Italy? Yeah, sure. I'll get back to you.
Okay, well, I will be on pins and needles. So before we wrap up, Lisa, please let us know where all of our listeners can find Sober Toronto and Lisa Wanders.
Sure. So my name is spelled funny. So my name is spelled Liisa. So like a Finnish version of Lisa. So even though I'm French, that's a whole other story. You can learn all this and more at lisawanders.com, which is my travel blog. I have posts there about my sober trip to Nashville, being sober in New Orleans, which is another city I didn't expect
Mhm.
to love, and I really did. There you will also find links to Sober Toronto on Instagram. It's Abandon Toronto, which is the non-alcoholic happy hour I started, and there's links there as well.
Awesome. We will tag all of that in the show notes. Do you have any trips or projects coming up later this spring or into the end of 2025 we should know about?
At this very moment, I'm planning my year. I've had a few difficult years in the past, and I think we don't know what the future is going to be like for our planet for the next little while, but I'm
Yeah, for
constantly
a hot minute.
scheming, and what I really hope is that I'll get to South America in 2025. I've never been.
That's amazing. I hope
Yeah.
that for you as well. Well,
Thank you.
Lisa, this has been such an amazing conversation. Thank you for showing us that travel without alcohol isn't just doable, it's a game changer. And listeners, if you're ready to start planning your next adventure, check out lisawanders.com and grab a copy of Sober Toronto. Also, make sure to check out our What a Trip travel section and our sober events and sober retreats calendars. That is all the time we have today. As we like to say at the Sober Curator, getting sober matters, staying sober matters more. Thanks for tuning in. This is Alysse Bryson. And until next time, keep it real, keep it fun, and keep it sober.